So it appears Dr. Neal-Boyan, Leslie Neal-Boyan, the dean of the nursing school at the University of Massachusetts in Lowell, was fired after sending an email to the campus, and that email said, "Everyone's life matters." Now, this is kind of old news. This happened almost a month ago now. But the problem is, as with so many on the left, they don't learn their lesson. Now, we've been watching for the better part of 2 months where Mayor Jenny Durkan of Seattle has been trying to appease the outrage mobs of the Chaz occupying autonomous zone. But she failed, of course, and she ended up with people coming out. 300 people came out to her house and all more or less camped out on her lawn and tried to protest. So despite being a cool mayor, having a summer of love, stupid Jenny Durkan decided to let it go on until finally she had to send in the police by force, and she ended up looking like a Nazi, just the same way she hated and she tried to avoid, because she didn't learn her lesson. You can never appease the outrage mobs. Well, this story about Dr. Neal-Boyan, a very intelligent lady by all accounts, someone who's obviously had a 40-year career in teaching, and now that's over. And honestly, she will probably never have a career again, because academics tend to not only be liberal, they're super far on the liberal scale, way out on the fringes, right next to actual terrorists. They're just a little bit less than actual practicing jihadists who are ready to murder and do all sorts of unspeakable, horrible things in the name of being a revolutionary. So she's probably never going to have her position at any college back again. She's going to have an early retirement, and that'll be the end of it. She was fired after she sent an email that said everyone's life matters. Now, mind you, she said in the email, Black Lives Matter. Here's the quote: "Recent events recall a tragic history of racism and bias that continue to thrive in this country. I despair for our future as a nation if we do not stand up against violence against anyone. Black Lives Matter, but also everyone's life matters." Wow, that's a horrible racist thing. How dare you say that everyone's life matters, which would include Black Lives Matter, but even she mentions in so many words Black Lives Matter. Now, you would think that someone like this would be outraged, and a woman in her late 50s or 60s would say, "Hey, I'm not going to get treated like this." But no, you'd be wrong. Just like Jenny Durkan's, you'd think that she would learn that the outrage mobs, once they occupy the city and you can't pay them to leave, and you try to negotiate with them and they still won't leave, you'd think she learned her lesson. But she didn't, just like this Neal-Boyan didn't. She didn't, not by a long shot, because what did Jenny Durkan, even now, after forcing everybody out and them sending her threatening letters saying, we're going to defund the police, we're going to resort to drastic measures, which is basically a threat. They actually went over, and she still is trying to deal with them, and she cut the police budget of Seattle by half, which is folly, which they've destroyed their own city. There's homeless and fecal matter and syringes everywhere. It is absolute madhouse. But what has she done? She's still trying to reason with them, because she still believes she can be a fair, decent Democrat. That, friends, is why the Democrats are a shithole. Well, let's get back to Leslie Neal-Boyan. You would think she learned. So is she going to take legal action against the University of Massachusetts, for firing her? The answer is no. Instead, she just says, "You fired me without due process. You fired me without using a quote teachable opportunity to explain that leaders can also make mistakes," end quote. So she's cucking down, but no surprise there. So here's what she added. The dean added that she would not be pursuing legal action against the school because, quote, "I know this would fuel the conservative opposition to the BLM movement, and that would be anathema to me." So translation, you have one libtard who's been fired by a bunch of academic libtards at the University of Massachusetts, and instead of defecting to the side that would make more sense, you have somebody who's saying, no, I'm going to stick to my guns. Eventually, there'll be justice, yada, yada, Black Lives Matter. But she's not seeing the point. And so, of course, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. So it is very disappointing that this teacher will not have a career after this, probably. This is all over the news. And how are they going to even give her a chance? Maybe she'll get lucky, but as with most of these unhappy libtard academics, much of what they has to say isn't even useful anyway. So it's unfortunate that this stuff is going on, but instead of getting in the fight and actually fighting for her job and for her position, she said, no, I don't want to support the conservatives. Well, if you'd been on the side of the conservatives, you'd have been in front of this a long time ago, and you would be fighting for the winning team. Unlike the University of Massachusetts, which has gone the way of the leftist commutards have been going for a long time.